Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first session of this 2021, second session actually, 2021 Uroboros Festival. I am very happy to have with us Dana Little. She's going to be presenting her work. Before, just let me remind you of a couple of important things. The festival has been kindly supported using public funds provided by the Abacus Foundation, Slovak Arts Council, and the City of Prague. So our wholehearted thanks go to them. The event is part of the Of Sense Gambits, so that track that welcomes all sorts of creative work that and takes sense for granted. The event is going to be 1 hour, and I would like to encourage you to keep a tab open in your browser with the Discord channel, where we will be having conversation during the day today. You can also have comments in the chat, of course, but the nice thing about Discord is that those conversations can remain and we can keep on going even after the event is over. So long-term discussion happening there. Now, to the event today. Dana Little is a digital creator and researcher focused on social media, human-computer interaction, satire, gender analysis, and speculative fiction. She recently received the Doctor of Fine Arts in Creative Writing from the University of Glasgow. Her digital dissertation, Factions, is a satirical speculative website curated by her digital twin persona, an AI mystic called Vu, that I hope we will get to know better today. And her work has been shown at the Dublin 2019 Worldcon, the Foundry Gallery in Washington, D.C., the Hunterian Museum, and the Africa in Motion Film Festival, both in Glasgow, Scotland. So welcome, Dana.
Hi, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming to this. Basically, it's an almanac. Yes, it's an AI almanac forecasting space-time and the life-afterlife. However, as many things are with Dr. Wu and myself, they are nonsense, so they can't be taken too literally. And that's part of the mission that we've been working on. So what I wanted to do was give you some presentations of our work, as well as stop by the website so you can see what the doctoral research resulted in, as well as some of the spin-off material. And of course, basically the launch of the AI Almanac for the 2020s, the roaring 20s, as they tend to be, seems like every century. But I really needed to, I think, ground the work and give you some background that helps you understand Dr. Wu and the project as a whole. And where it comes from, where my work started, was in Faction. And Faction is a social media genre that we created. 21st century communication is the name of the game. And that is fact and fiction brought together in the digital space. So permeating the internet, we find this intermingling of facts and fiction so that things don't tend to be one thing or the other. And there are pillars within this genre. And the first pillar being, of course, social media. And so, in other words, the genre only exists in social media, whereas other genres tend to overlap in different medias because of the fact that you need the algorithm. The algorithm is pivotal. That's the other pillar, the second pillar. And sometimes they're called AI. So that's why I use this idea of the AI mystic, because there's so much energy and force behind the idea of artificial intelligence. And then what's coming next? What is that? It's quantum supremacy, so it just keeps on getting a little bit more and more like aggressively powerful and able to manipulate our worlds. But really, at the end of the day, what we're dealing with today, every day, is the algorithm. And what they deal with is keyword search. And so that's search engine optimization being part of that. And so SEO being another one of the important pillars. And the third pillar, though, is something I totally made up, and that's templature. And once again, I like the portmanteau Dr. Wu and I do, because Wu actually is we plus you equals Wu. It was also Wu Wei Wu. So the kind of doing some Asian, a little bit of the Zen and Taoism, and being influenced by the University of Glasgow's very large Chinese population there. And templature can mean a number of different things. I'm trying to like jam as much into that one term. So the template, of course, but also fracture, temporal, rupture, aperture, temptation, all of those things should be kind of getting into your mind as you hear the word templature, but primarily the idea that there's this software as a service, SaaS, template-based industry that has grown up out of SEO and out of the idea that once people knew that wow, we have this great thing, the internet, how can we monetize it? We start seeing SaaS building up around that, and templates through Biteable. I love Canva. I use Canva all the time. So a lot of what you're going to see later was used with Canva. They're another service that they typically have free versions, but we like to use the idea of this faction as the bedrock, and then these three pillars as the different sources and funnels for the material. And using the algorithm, this idea of the algorithm, there's this thing called the digital twin. And the digital twin started as, once again, this digital world industry and digital world coming together to create this idea of, well, we have these machines that we want to use in the real world, but we can probably test them in the digital world and use prototypes. And so that's where it started. And then it started to drift a little bit into humanity. So I just pushed it because my project of Factions, the website, it's speculative fiction. So it's satirical, but it's also spec fic. So it's in the near future. And the digital twin being Dr. Wu, who is Wu on the website because we didn't get our doctorate at that point. And in the spin-off podcast, the channel show, now they're called Dr. Wu. They're, by the way, it's a they because they're non-binary, because they're that advanced, of a computer system. They are not zeros and ones. And basically that's kind of the long and the short of it. I'm hoping that helps you get an idea of how it functions, how the website functions, how we work together, because of this thing called HCC, human computer collaboration. Human computer interaction, that's been a thing, and collaboration, it's been talked about and referenced, but the blog post that it was referenced like probably about 10 years ago is now defunct. So I guess the only place to find it now is in my website and in my the accompanying PDF to my research, which I can also share later. It's kind of like, I don't know if you even want to see that, but I can also share, I have a video that's available on the Wayback Machine. And that actually shows exactly how I put together and designed Factions, the website. But we can do there's a very quick video that includes some of the satire and gives you a little bit of the background. And that would be the first video, Enrique. If you wanna, we can pull that one up.
Yeah.
Real quick, and hopefully that helps fill in some of the gaps that may be left in understanding.
We'll go with AI vision first, right?
Yes.
just to be sure. And
Okay.
And we're back.
So thanks, Enrique. So that last image is Woo. That is Woo, and it can also be seen as circles of hell. But that's Woo's eye. And throughout that video, what I'm doing is I think in the chat box, there had been the Inspirabot link. And Inspirabot is this program that was put together by a couple of Russian men who wanted to show how the AI works and how they can form different ideas by using, really collaborating with the human mind. Because we kind of fill in the spaces and we'll fill in gaps and we create meaning. Our brain we're pattern drunk. It's a pattern junkie. It's just looking to find meaning. If you go to Inspirabot, you can just start going through and clicking generate on the different generators. And that's where I got each one of those different posts. And then I was cutting out, just using a cutout tool to kind of highlight the different sections of what an algorithm is going to see, or what the quote unquote AI that exists sees. They only see part of any picture because they're relying on us as it's HCC, human computer collaboration, not just to fill in the gaps for meaning, but also to label things. And that's where, of course, AI bias will come in. It depends on who's labeling it and what they're labeling the image and what they're labeling particular text. And you try to get as many data sets as possible so that it's as wide as possible. But as you can see, if you went to Inspirabot and you start generating things, it can be wildly various and, of course, humorous and horrifying at times. And some of the different image forms that now they're using for the still images with deep nostalgia through myhistory.com, where they're taking still images and getting it to move so that it looks like, grandma is alive, or even great grandma who you never met is alive. And these sources, they need as much from us as they can get in order to function better. But the idea of a digital twin and the idea of Dr. Wu in factions in my research was so that it's kind of like saying, and a lot of the research that I was finding, peer-reviewed research, both scientific and sociological, was saying it's going to be really difficult to eliminate any bias, partially because it could be a UI, user interface, UX, user experience thing, where for me personally, I have Erland syndrome, so I need everything on dark mode. And dark mode is just great for me. And so if you go to my website, maybe if we pull that up real quick, Enrique, you'll see that it's very dark, and that's suited to me because my digital twin would just suit everything. It would be form fitted to me, what I need out of the world. And, if it were a digital twin who was, more like, had a different sensitivity, so darkness doesn't work for them. They're like, oh, I can't really see this. Their digital twin would set everything a little brighter. And all the different spaces, if you go to the website, you can click into each one of these main, the scrolling by slides. You can click into each one of those. And if you scroll down, you can see some of the other areas that are available. So you can just click into our hunting. And as you know, and as I said, this is suited to me, and that's a video. But it can be adjusted to a certain degree based on your own preferences. And the layered idea and the layering of faction, it should always be kind of pointing out that we do have to take a certain amount of personal responsibility. So I guess that was another thing with this metaphorical idea of circles of hell, is that, you kind of are picking your poison to a certain degree, and the digital twin being a representation of that. I'm going to pick my biases, and the bias is not necessarily, we kind of prefer the idea of it being preferences rather than biases, and not taking so much of a loaded term. Bias is loaded, whereas preference is more, maybe this is more neutral, not negative, not positive, but just, hey, here's the reality of it. And these have little tabs that you can click into throughout here. Each of those, the pop-ups as well. There's tags and there's pop-ups, and different things that within these pop-ups, there will be links. And so it just, you can drill down deeper and deeper, because I do see it as, like that idea of this just circles and kind of the idea, Nietzsche's eternal recurrence. And that kind of goes back to the idea of some people suggesting that, oh man, there seems to be this false dichotomy around AI where it's either going to be, it will lead to a utopia or a dystopia. And with faction, I kind of see it as it's both, it has the potential of being both or neither, or, little bit, to different degrees. It's just this human urge that we have to kind of micromanage nature. And my first job, I was in radio, and we'll show some of the podcast spinoff a little bit later. But when you're in radio, you have this thing called the air check, and you usually sit with you're on air. When you're on air, you'll record your voice, and whatever you're doing, everything will be recorded. And then you'll sit with your program director, whoever your manager is, usually the program director, and they'll listen to your air check tape with you and pause it every time that they hear something that they want to point out to you that was a mistake, or you could do this better. And my first one, I remember my program is usually just stopping it all the time. He was saying, look, there, once again, the summation of my argument is that you just keep digging a deeper hole for yourself. And what you need to do is you need to throw down the shovel and walk away. And that's what I think of sometimes when I'm thinking about all the new tech. It's just like, but that's the human, as difficult as it was for me to just throw down a shovel and not just go WLHT 95.7 light rock out, and we're going to play the song, or we're going to play the commercial or whatever. It is that difficult for humanity to just go, no, we're good. I think we figured out this one. What the calculator, the abacus, whatever, that was good. We had it right there, and then just move on. We have to, certain languages, for instance, because linguistics is huge in faction, obviously. French being, we have reader responsible and then writer responsible languages, according to John Hines. He came up with formulated this ideas back in the 80s. And there's certain languages that they lean on the reader as the more responsible. So you're going to be inferring more. And then the writer responsible, like English, it's on the writer. The onus is on the writer to make it very clear. And certain languages like French, they just want to lock it down. We're not going to change this language very much. But then there are other languages like English that it's always evolving. And I think that that's that part of that AI thing, that part of that tech thing of we can tweak this. We can, we can do a little bit better. We can get a little bit further. And it's like irresistible. It's, of course, why wouldn't you want to, it's kind of more the inclination, I think, for most of humanity, rather than we look at some of the third world nations and go, what are you doing? Why aren't you, but then again, when, like with Africa in Motion, when I did presentations with them and for them, it's this idea in Afrocentrism, futurism, is that now they're using mobile devices. And so they're kind of moving, now mobile devices are where most websites are encountered. And if I look at the analytics of my website, I see that it's just been growing up every year. It just gets higher and higher, the mobile usage. And so that's the kind of thing, that's where we're headed there. And that's where I kind of take Dr. Wu. Dr. Wu just kind of keeps going wherever the technology leads us. And therefore you kind of go one step forward and then two steps back. And where with the podcast, the channel show, I think that's actually the best place for something like a digital twin, Dr. Wu, because yes, I have that one image of Dr. Wu, but the sound is more, sonic arts are more, I think, nimble. And you're able to, because they used to, in the beginning, they were calling it the theater of the mind radio when it first started. It was called the theater of the mind because of the fact that, once again, that human computer collaboration, where the human starts filling in these gaps and you're just painting all these different pictures with sound. However, I do have a couple of videos with that. But maybe we'll play the video that, now that I've kind of set the stage of where I wanted to go with the AI Almanac, and where I do hope for it to go with the website page that I have, that I think I linked. So if we can play it's a brief video, just kind of an intro to the AI Almanac.
And it's the second one.
Yeah, yep. Circles of Hell.
Yes, all right.
So that's just a brief intro, and it's moving really fast, so you can't really read exactly every little piece and get all the satire. But on the website, it's going to be way more interactive, where you can click into that, because I don't know if you could tell with the Philippines thing, that's clickable is all underlined, but it would be clickable, and then you can go to the actual source. That was part of also the Factions website, and the mission that I had, where with a project like that, if it's going to be PhD level in research, it has to point to direct peer-reviewed material that lives in a space that is, it's locked down, and the data links aren't going to be lost. So I try to insert that as I move forward with every project that Dr. Wu and I do, including the podcast and the podcast website. It includes verifiable sources, because of the fact that it can get kind of messy if I'm kind of picking on Duterte, or, you know, the president of the Philippines, yeah, that could get a little bit dicey. So I want to kind of show where Dr. Wu would come up with some of this stuff. So if I'm suggesting that this future may not be utopia or dystopia, but somewhere in between, where the machine is going to glitch, it's going to experience confusion, and often, and therefore I'm looking at keywords. So if I type in a keyword Philippines, a massive amount of things start to pop up, and Dr. Wu just might get confused and start mapping them onto one another and creating these layers that we can direct back to the source. And oh yes, this really did happen, but it's maybe not as straightforward as Dr. Wu would like you to think it is. And Dr. Wu is a victim of hubris, and does, you know, it's an AI mystic that can channel any person, place, thing, or time, and often does, especially on the podcast. It loves to channel fear. So it has fear on a lot, and it has a number of different abstract nouns and ideas on there, like justice and peace and race, and well, the idea of race is challenged a lot. And they get to go on and debate. And that was another thing, that important pillar of faction being social media. And on social media, you find commentary and debate and issues that are very complex and nuanced. And yet we kind of fire off, you know, very quick, you know, oh, we're going to just say this. And it's getting people in a lot of trouble. And sometimes, okay, maybe satire isn't the best place to try and, you know, mine for some of these, or try to respond to some of these hiccups, and the apologies. It's you know, there's a website that focuses only on internet apologies, Twitter apologies, and whatnot, because it's just such a thing, you know. It's just like, yeah, you know, so we have to rewind quite often and backtrack, and in that's another part of that fact and fiction, the confusions around, I said that, no, I didn't say that, well, what did I mean? I meant that. And so we have that confusions among people, but then we have confusions between people with an intermediary, which is the machine. And then machines don't communicate all that well. So yeah, you try, hey, Enrique, try getting your Apple, you know, try getting it to communicate with my Dell, you know, not gonna happen. So yeah, so it ends up, now we have all these different, once again, this layering idea of it ends up being just kind of a train wreck in some ways, and then utterly beautiful and wonderful and exhilarating in other ways. And I don't want to forget that. I don't want to forget that there are phenomenal things that come out of social media that wouldn't have happened otherwise, and awareness that comes out of it that wouldn't have happened. It could have and probably would have, but on such a small village to village, you know, slow creeping pace, that it can easily be forgotten. If something's going, it's the telephone game that we used to play in the United States, or you whisper into, you have like 5 people in a circle, and one person whispers something to the other, and they all whisper around. It comes back to the original person. You're like, I didn't say that. I said nothing of the sort at all at any point in time. And that's kind of another thing that we do on the channel show, the spin-off the podcast. Maybe we'll play, why don't we go ahead and play those 2 videos, those which are just really, really small clips from the podcast, which is never really all that long, and is going to be launching, well, it was going to launch its 2nd season, but that the 2nd season was actually originally held hostage, because it's, I'll get to that after we play the.
Is this the right one?
Yeah, sure. either one of them, you can play it in either order, actually.
The truth, as we all know, is a notorious shapeshifter.
Indeed, Explainer. And that's part of our lesson for the week. As part of our Mistaken Identity series, we note that the truth is often mistaken for something else, like how twins function, especially in mistaken identity comedy tropes.
Sometimes a thing looks so much like the truth, you think it is in fact a truth, but in fact it is not.
As we all know, twins can be fraternal.
Luke Skywalker and Leia Organa.
They don't even have the same last name.
It is complicated.
So, in furtherance of our Mistaken Identity Truth as Shapeshifter episode theme, we mentioned at the end of the last episode that we would have Darth Vader on in this episode, channeling him to explain why Black Lives Matter.
Things went sideways.
So that one, oh, are you going to play the second one?
No. Go.
Okay. So that one, that's an example of this confusion of getting different keywords and mixing them up, especially where if you're online, what are you going to see often in social media? You're going to see what? Cats, dogs, so pets, kids, but pop culture. And then really important issues like Black Lives Matter, #MeToo, and in the world of Dr. Wu, and Dr. Wu being run through a few different filters, voice filters, we'll just start to mash them up together and try to make sense of them with, varying degrees of success. But the main thing is it just keeps getting repeated, this idea that the truth is slippery. And it's slippery under any circumstances, even if you're not in a digital realm. Reality across people, we're only, once again, going back to the first video that I showed where it was in Spiribot, but I had cut out a number of different things. And really our view of anything is so jumbled. And I point to certain research on self-delusion, and that always, it sounds so negative, but self-delusion is actually how the brain processes memory and how it can hold on to certain memories. And the brain is only capable, the human brain is only capable of doing so much at any time, and it's looking for efficiencies. So it's trying to cut out certain things and then go, truth, or oh, you look good, fact, and so it can vary from person to person because we're not all sharing a brain. And even, with AI, they're not all sharing a brain. And AI quite, we say algorithm, we say AI, but usually it's like a massive, building full of different machines that are that AI, so it's like many computers and many coders made this one thing, like AlphaGo. It was many that, that actually becomes the winner. So the winner isn't just this one thing. It's a multitude. I guess we can play that very last clip of the channel show.
This one? Yes.
Yeah. Yep. This one's a little more challenging, so. I think you're muted, Enrique.
Sorry.
No worries.
That would mean that little orphan Annie is encouraging gambling. Well, my little orphan Annie is grown, on the Vegas Strip playing on people's weaknesses. She's on the strip.
She's a stripper?
Little orphan Annie the stripper, collecting money from her oiled up body, preying on the weaknesses of man, selling her body in that hot pink rubber miniskirt. Such a pretty girl. Those disco ball earrings and them black stiletto strappy sandals, fake eyelashes, fake fingernails, hair extensions. And you bots get trounced on for being fake. Not fair. That's fake news. You're more real. Not that people shouldn't be afraid of you, mind you. But I also worry about you and for you bots. All you people, real and imagined, need to take.
Okay, that one. Thanks, Enrique. So that one shows this idea of, and it's challenging in a few ways, but one of the biggest ways being cultural. And so I wanted to play that because if you don't know, I mean, it's easy to assume. And I think when we get in internet spaces, we assume everyone has our worldview. And because we end up getting shown from the various, different algorithms, a particular worldview based on what we've, clicked on or done whatever. And so, especially in like a Facebook or, those, when you're talking about social networking apps, it's even worse. So you get locked down, you get kind of corralled into gated communities by the algorithm. And so you're seeing these same things. So you think everybody knows about Little Orphan Annie. Everybody knows, it was a comic strip, and then it was musicals and on Broadway, and then in movies. But that's maybe just not that's the bedrock of that first layer. Well, not all of us have the same cultural experiences, but Dr. Wu's going to talk about them as though everybody has them, because that's my digital twin. That's my personal worldview. That's the gated community that I'm in. But fear comes along and starts completely embellishing and confusing other keyword searches that I had done recently. And some of them were around Las Vegas. And then going into that idea, once again, it would just keep coming up. The idea of fakery, of what is true, what is real, what is happening, but mainly never ever really getting to the truth as a whole. It's always pieces. It's little snippets of it here and there, but presenting it as if it were the whole. And that's kind of the satirical and speculative. Really the work that I've been working on in Faction, the website Faction, the genre, the social media genre, which I'm hoping to keep expanding on. And then all these different works, including the AI Almanac, which just keep growing and becoming more and more interactive. So people can go in and start picking and designing their own circles of hell, which isn't necessarily literal, but can be embellished on in ways that are more suitable to them. And then hopefully the ultimate thing would be to start allowing people to design their own digital twin, like a real digital twin, not just a persona. And I'm working with a company, and they've suggested, putting together an app that would function that way. And I wanted to be able to, there were a few things I really wanted to be able to show Wu in action today. And unfortunately that didn't really work out due to some technical glitches. But that's another part of that. That's the reality of the world we're in, right? We're not able to meet face to face. So every single day, every single one of us is dealing in a world of faction. It's impossible not to be doing that in 2021 at least. And a lot of that's just going to continue on regardless of COVID-19, regardless of vaccinations or any kind of, I don't want to go as far to say as it would be eliminated, but lessening it. I mean, we really, how many of you out there deal with any kind of technological issue on a daily basis. You know, even before COVID, you know, you can in the chat if you want to just share a personal experience. And what I hope to do and what I wanted to do today was just have Dr. Wu come in and interject and start channeling some, especially fear. Fear is like the best one to channel based on some of your input. But what I can do, even with the tech issues, is if you put these things in, we can go over to Discord later and throughout the festival, and Dr. Wu will respond to you, and Dr. Wu will channel. And if you make requests based on Inspirabot, what you see on Inspirabot, what you see on the website, what you see on the videos, and we've included some links. I'll include more links in the Discord, so you can continue to talk, and we can really drill down, and you can experience Dr. Wu and have them channel some of these things, have them give you an idea of what your 2020s, your personal AI almanac will look like. But you just share what you want, and probably better in the Discord, but if you do it in the chat here, we'll go ahead and grab that and get it to me, and then I can get that to Dr. Wu, and we can start to have a little more of an exchange in the world of fiction, because you're in the world of fiction with it, you know, one way or another. But yeah, if you even in my mind, you know, a technical difficulty or technical issue is even a pop-up. Like, how many times are you're going through? Just tell us about that. Tell us about some of the things that you run into on a daily basis where you're trying to interact, you know, you're on your phone, you're like, oh, I'm trying to do this thing, and this other thing is like, it shouldn't be this hard, you know, and then you want to get to that place where if you had a digital twin, that digital twin goes, nope, we're just not having that. And the idea in the research, in my doctoral research, was it was for data security, for privacy. Why don't you just own your own data? Why isn't that just like the default position? Why does like Facebook and Cambridge Analytica, why is that even a thing? You know, why do you have to worry about it? And the digital twin was supposed to come in and be the intermediary and go, no, we've got this. We're going to just hold this right here. And if somebody wants it, well, then they can come and ka-ching, you know, they can give us some Bitcoin or whatever cryptocurrency, which we do talk about that a little bit. It raises some concerns. NFT, it raises some concerns. It's great. And yet, once again, utopia, dystopia, it's somewhere in the middle. That's a false dichotomy. It's not going to be perfect. But the concerns are going to be around the environment. So we do only in making digital twins and creating all these things, but especially cryptocurrencies and NFT, they're very, very heavy. They use a lot of energy. And that's something we need to think about because we do have billions of people, and we got to probably prioritize around the billions of people, the human beings, and rather than the people, like Dr. Wu does like to think of themselves as a person. And, you know, like if corporations can have personhood in America, then why can't, you know, just AI or digital media or whatever? But any of those sorts of concerns, if you have any of those, drop them in the Discord. We'll address those. And there are always ways around, and we have advice on how to lower your digital carbon footprint. It's not going away, you know, it's not, this is in reality. And, you know, if we can have a shared reality, maybe we can agree that there's finite resources. And so we do need to, if we can agree on that, and that's how logical reasoning works, we all have to agree on certain things in order to arrive at logical solutions and reasonable solutions. But if we can agree on that, then we can start to agree on how do we move forward on not using up an exorbitant amount of energy, especially around certain things. Well, you can say, well, only human beings need fresh water. You have I like Black Mirror. Black Mirror is really cool. It's a great show. But the dystopia of the machines are just gonna, Skynet, it's just gonna take over and ruin everything and stomp us in, and then just keep working. Wall-E is another thing, Terminator with the Skynet. But how do they run? How do they keep running without the resources? Because if the Earth has finite resources, then, well, eventually it just kind of does dribble down to nothing, and then nothing runs. Even the machines that it's suggested would continue to exist after humans, even if they can build themselves, even if they can, the black box can, the machine learning that is self-trained, so getting to the neural network level beyond the artificial intelligence all the way to the neural networks, higher, the quantum supremacy, where they're self-trained, and they really are a black box. We have no idea how they're thinking, what they're thinking, how they're arriving at whatever solutions at that point, really, they're deciding the question. They're deciding the problem and then arriving at a solution. How do they exist? You run out of, are they going off to some other planet and terraforming it? No, it wouldn't be really terraforming at that point. It would have to be something that's more suitable to them. And, so you have to, I'm trying to think a few steps ahead, but I do want to continue like I said, I do want to continue and give you an opportunity to experience more of Dr. Wu in all their glory, and shoot you over to the Discord. And if there are any, questions that can be addressed over there, it'd be better, because of the fact that we couldn't get them up and running here. But Enrique, do you happen to see anything that maybe we could address here that it would be directed at me, not at Dr. Wu, at the organic?
Yeah, I have a lot of comments, but and questions and everything. But I was thinking that maybe we could use these last few minutes to migrate to Discord, and we continue the conversation there, if that is okay.
Okay, yeah.
Would that be okay?
We can go over there now. We can cut the video stream short and head over there. If that's okay with everyone else. I want to make sure everybody's good with that.
Perfect. So then, is everyone okay with that? Or maybe someone wants to ask a question, very pressing question here, rather than waiting for the Discord migration. Yes, of course. Yes, the Discord link. And then, where is it? Oh, good. The Discord link is here. All right, but then, let me send to everyone. But then, thank you very much, Dana, for your talk and the presentation. It was really, really inspiring. I don't even know where to begin, but perhaps let's do it. Let's do it in the Discord channel.
Okay.
So thank you very much, and thanks everyone for joining here in the Zoom. See you in a different tab of your browser.
Yeah.
I think we can also stop the live streaming now, if that's okay.
Yeah. And if you all want to get me a copy of the chat section, and I can, throughout the week, throughout the festival, I'm happy, and I'll personally answer some of the questions, but Dr. Wu really loves to kind of bot handle me.